What's the first thing you think of when you hear the term animal shelter? Does it carry a negative connotation or a positive one? Regardless of what the first thought that comes to your mind is, it's likely not the full picture of the Ames Animal Shelter.
I would say my first responsibility is to the Ames citizens to be a support person and be there to help get their needs addressed. So that's the first thing that's on my mind when I come to work. And then also being a support to the staff and then being a support to the animals. And so it works kind of that way. So as a supervisor, I'm dabbling in all those areas of work and making sure that calls are addressed, that there's a customer satisfaction with the work we're providing, that the animals are safe and carefully housed here at the shelter, that the volunteer program is running, and that we're all sort of in our respective roles and jobs doing what we need to do every day.
I've worked with the shelter for many, many years in both a volunteer capacity and also more formally. What we've done is bring our students into the shelter so that they can learn what a shelter is all about. Oddly enough, many of our veterinary students have never been in an animal shelter, and this is a great experience. They need to see the homeless animals, the types of homeless animals, and they also get the opportunity to examine the animals, to see what's normal, see what problems the animals may have, and they can also be involved in diagnostics and treatment of those animals. So it's a really great experience.
I would say that the shelter serves the Ames citizens, and in doing that we include all the little furred animals, and we enforce local as well as state codes, and just educate people and pick up stray and unwanted animals. Here at the shelter, we offer adoption services. We house animals in under protective custody if there's sometimes house fires, or if somebody has a car accident, we house those animals, temporarily for people. Many times people can't keep their animals for a variety of reasons, and we place them up for adoption.
Animal shelters got their start as societies for the prevention of cruelty to animals. The Women's SPCA of Pennsylvania was established in 1869 and is considered one of the first animal shelters in the United States. Here in Ames, the animal shelter has been in its current building since 1992. The Ames Animal Services and Shelter staff is experienced and trained for a vast array of responsibilities.
The animal shelter really serves two important functions. One, of course, is sheltering for those animals that are found as strays, those domestic pets that may no longer fit in the life of a family and need to be put up for adoption. Provides a humane way of rehoming those animals, and that's a really important service to the pet owning community. The second aspect of their service is animal control. A dog that is on the loose in the neighborhood, perhaps threatening, maybe even biting someone. The animal control officers can assist in that situation, safely and humanely control that animal and provide the appropriate kind of follow-up. The other dimension of animal control is, of course, assisting citizens in dealing with wildlife. We share this community with a wide variety of wild animals, and sometimes their habits and our habits are in conflict, and our animal control staff can at least try to assist homeowners in resolving some of the conflicts we have with wildlife.
The mission is to ensure that Ames is a pet and human-friendly community, as in so much as the two would interact, and also to help people understand about the local wildlife population and how to live with them and what to do about problems that arise. The processes that we put into place aren't well known to the public. That's always been a troubling thing. And many people know it nowadays because we share that information. But communication is so important to let people know. For example, a kitten we picked up this morning that's half wild. So I could see that we caught it in a trap inside of an Ames School District garage, and I could see that it was semi-feral, meaning semi-wild. Probably more like a farm kitten that might have caught a ride into town on the wheel well of a car or something. From its behaviors and the tones of its meowing and the concerns that it had, I could see that it also has a light upper respiratory infection. So it's going to be a bit infectious when we bring it to the shelter. So we need to be careful what room we place it in and with whom we place it. We chose to put it with another single kitten with upper respiratory infection so that their stress level would go down, they would tame quickly, and we could offer them safely for public adoption. So we will also check it against our lost and found file to make sure that we don't have a lost or found report. And then beyond that, we do need public support to rehome them. But I think the most important thing is we're only interested in rehoming them responsibly, to where they'll be a valued part of that home environment, and also where they'll go on to be medically cared for, and most important to me, spayed or neutered, so that this cycle of this continuous overpopulation and homelessness is ended.
A lot of the challenges usually that I've come across has to do with wildlife. A lot of times people will just want a quick fix of the wildlife here in Ames, but the important thing to know is that we live in a urban/rural environment, and we just kind of have to cohabitate with the animals. And a lot of times our advice people don't really want to take in, but oftentimes people want a quick fix to a problem, say they'll want a trap or just for us to come remove the animal. And a lot of times that's ineffective. Other animals move into the environment, or we could possibly separate mom from babies, which we obviously don't want to do. So oftentimes our advice is just the use of deterrence with the wildlife. And if they're used effectively, I would say about 90% of the time the animal moves out on its own.
I think, there's a variety of calls that come in, and that's one of the things I really like about this job. It's always varied. It could range from picking up a stray dog or two to a cat that somebody has found, or sometimes it's an exotic, like I mentioned. Sometimes we get calls on snakes or wildlife. We get any variety of wildlife, raccoons or injured squirrels, or sometimes it's just somebody that saw something in their yard and they want a little education on that animal. So it's quite a variety.
Many people do think this is a place where animals go that nobody wants, and then they're destroyed. But the shelter has a much bigger a job. They are here to shelter animals that people can no longer keep. Perhaps the owner has died. Perhaps they are moving and cannot find housing where the animals can be taken with them. That happens. They also protect the animals on the street, get them off the street to protect the people and the animals as well. Their animal control is very, very important in that regard, to keep everyone safe and keep the community safe.
Over time, the focus of animal shelters has shifted with the needs of the communities and the animals. There are an estimated 6 to 8 million dogs and cats entering shelters each year. A single female dog and her offspring can produce 67,000 dogs in 6 years. With multiplication like that, it's easy to see how overpopulation has become a real challenge for shelters nationwide.
The overpopulation, the first thing that comes to mind is the pain of holding animals while they have to be put to sleep years ago because of such homelessness and such high numbers of animals. And they had to be cared for humanely, and they had to be taken care of. And then if there was no place to put them, they couldn't just be released into the wild. And so what we have seen over the years, though, is as Iowa adopted policies that required that all animal shelter pets be spayed or neutered, we saw a drop in the number. I mean, across America, millions and millions and millions of lives were saved simply because they weren't born into homelessness. And so once that shifted, we got to be able to say, okay, now we're not going to have to put to sleep adoptable animals, only ones that aren't sound or that are dangerous or really physically so challenged that there isn't a person that would want to take that into their home and care for that. And so the thing that comes to mind is just turning off the faucet instead of mopping up the overflow.
Overpopulation, I think shelters in general are always battling that, because we know that the bottom line is that there basically are too many animals and not enough homes for them. We're always encouraging people to get their pets spayed or neutered. That's the only way that we can cut down on the surplus of animals, basically. A lot of people will say, well, I find homes for all of mine, but basically, you know, they don't know what happens to those animals 5-10 years down the line and how many animals they end up birthing. So the very best thing is to get animals spayed or neutered to cut down on the overpopulation. And it is a one-time surgery to get your animal spayed or neutered. There's lots of different vets out there. It doesn't hurt the animal. There's no adverse effects. So it's a good thing all the way around.
The word euthanasia, or the term euthanasia, means putting an animal to sleep or ending its life humanely. So this conjures up the images that you're technically correct and trained to properly administer this procedure, and it's also not stressful for the animal, so there's a calming and a peace. And some of the neatest people that I've known are people that have worked in animal shelters and animal control environments, because they've nurtured animals, cared for them, you know, rescued them, and then had the heartbreaking task of having to let them go. And it's a very difficult thing to do, and we do spend time talking as a staff when that becomes a necessity, that we know that we are a team, that we support each other, and that we also you know, never have wanted to do it. You sort of make yourself do that. And we have throughout the years had the job of being sort of the I guess, attacked by the public at times, right here in our own offices, because that's a possibility in an animal shelter. And so they don't personalize it like, how can they go home and prevent adding to animal euthanasia by spaying and neutering and being a responsible pet owner. They don't understand that that's where it begins. That's the solution. That's where it begins and ends, is right in their own backyard. And so, and it's a painful subject for some of them, so they want to, what we call it the ball of guilt, and they want to throw it at the staff. And we've gotten very good at tossing it back and saying, how can I help you with that ball of guilt? You know, what can I do to help you so that neither one of us have to carry that any longer? And so we do this new thing now that I think helped the staff with the sorrow part of our job, is that when people ask us, volunteers especially will ask about a particular special needs animal, they kind of know that it wasn't adoptable, they kind of know what happened, but they still want to ask, and that's okay. What we do is we give them a little card, a sympathy card, and we explain to them what did happen and why, and that we need time to grieve it ourselves before we can really talk to them about it. But maybe call us and talk to us about it in a week or so, when we've gone through our own process of grieving it, and then we can help them with their grief. And that has taken out the tension in the conversations and really put it in a place where it can be a meaningful conversation.
The Ames Animal Shelter distinguishes itself from shelters in other communities with a commitment to maintain an adoption and reclamation rate of more than 90%. This impressive percentage includes lost, abandoned, stray, neglected, and relinquished pets for the past 15 years. Each community has its own unique challenges, though, and a unique challenge for Ames is weather. With record highs reaching above 100 degrees in the summer and lows down to 25 below, being outside can be a challenge for humans and pets.
Sometimes there's a disconnect with that, and that's intriguing to me. Particularly this summer, we have seen people, a lot of people meaning to be kind, taking their dogs shopping with them, and they think they're only going to be in the local store for 10 minutes, and that quickly turns into 20 minutes. And on an 82-degree day with a high humidity, the inside of a parked car, even with the window slightly open, reaches 102 degrees in 10 minutes. Why is that a terrible thing? Well, dogs can't sweat the way that people do to cool our bodies. They're also covered with a fur coat, which we are not in the summertime. And they depend on a certain amount of cool air passing over their tongue so that they can efficiently pant to cool their body. And when they're in an enclosure like that, it's not going to happen. So it can mean death within a matter of minutes, climbing to 120 degrees in less than 30 minutes on a hot Iowa day. So anyone who lives in Iowa knows about our weather extremes. You know, we have sub-zero temperatures and below zero wind chills and ice and issues like antifreeze and road salt that can be harmful to pets' paws. And also antifreeze is a deadly poison, and pets are attracted to it because apparently it has a sweet taste and smell. So you look at the cold extremes and then you look at the heat extremes, and you really want to be aware of your pet's protection level. Make sure they have cooling down periods in the summer where they're brought inside, where in a 24-hour period their body gets to cool down for a good 4 to 6 hours during that time frame. They have plenty of shade, plenty of water for outdoor dogs. Don't take your dogs shopping with you in the hot summer months. It's safer to leave them at home.
The Ames community prides itself on shared use areas. 37 parks and over 1,200 acres are connected through an expansive shared use path system. All these shared use areas creates another challenge for the animal shelter and services staff. The animal shelter maintains successful public counseling and mediation processes for human-animal issues. Neighborhoods with pet lovers next to petless people, or the shared use paths at area parks and community gathering areas, are often places where differing perspectives collide.
I think the biggest concern that we get are spring and fall, and it's dealing with barking issues, loose cats destroying gardens, shrubbery, as well as sanitation issues. So I just really think if you're a thoughtful neighbor, you put yourself in your neighbor's shoes and say, what would it be like if I lived next door to my dog? You know, a lot of times people will build dog kennels or put dog keeping, devices out at the back end of their property right next to the neighbor's house. And so what I recommend is just kind of goes back to old-fashioned good neighboring practices. If you move into an area and you have a pet and you know you're going to have to work out some things with your pet, talk to all of your neighbors. Introduce yourself, let them know that this dog is mine. And by the way, here's my cell phone number, here's my email address. If my animal ever poses problems for you, let me know immediately. I want to be, responsive to that. That goes a long way to keep the stability and balance and harmony in a neighborhood.
We also have a lot of conflict in the community with both domestic and wild animals, and our animal control staff provide a great service to the community in trying to resolve those disputes and find solutions to the friction that sometimes occurs when people live side by side with animals. Without their assistance, I think we'd have more conflict than we currently do in neighborhoods, more conflict than we currently do with wildlife. I think they provide a great service in helping us find some harmony with the animals we live with here in Ames.
We always encourage people to be mindful of their neighbors. Just be respectful, just like you would anything else. You don't want to infringe on other people's rights. So we always, encourage people to keep their animals on their property, keep them quiet, and in like barking dogs, you don't want to leave your dog out for barking for hours. So that kind of thing, and just be courteous, I think, is the bottom line.
Well, if you have an issue with a neighborhood animal, whether it's an animal that you're seeing regularly off leash without human protection, or whatever the concern is, don't be afraid to call the Ames Animal Shelter and Animal Control. We're a busy staff, but we have set up our program so that you have access to us. So you're likely to get a recorded message where you can leave a message and we'll call you the same working day. Or you can have direct access to the animal control officer's cell phone, which is also another great way to just get a hold of us right away so we can come out and help. Our staff is trained in great public service skills. So the first thing we're going to do is not go out and write tickets and fine your neighbors. We're going to try to find that solution in the middle first, and to help everyone work out the problem. It's rare that we would actually cite for a code violation, so don't be afraid to call us.
I myself have adopted just a couple of kitties from the shelter, which is plenty, as many wander onto my farm, so I have a few. But this is a great place to find a new friend, and a great place to come and meet the cats and the dogs, and perhaps come and find your new best friend, adopt them, and take them home.